Welcome to the Magnify Your Miracles podcast. Get ready to be inspired, uplifted, and connected to the miraculous energy of unconditional love that I call Mother Mary. If you're a highly sensitive, highly creative entrepreneur or light worker, and you want to magnify your impact and your intuition, you are in the right place. I'm your host, Reverend Frances Faden, interfaith minister, intuitive coach, and author of Meditation is Friendship with God. I can't wait to share miraculous stories, books, meditations, messages, and interviews with other miraculous light workers just like you. Are you ready to magnify your miracles? What are we waiting for? Let's get started. Hello, my miraculous friend, and welcome to another episode of the Magnify Your Miracles podcast. This is Reverend Frances Faden, and I am so grateful to get to be with you, spending time supporting you to magnify your miracles. Today, I'm going to be sharing my story with you of my encounter with Mother Mary, which you may or may not have ever heard before, but I want to share it because it's really important, and I want you to understand a little bit more about not only my connection, but how you can have that connection too, and how it really, really is the core energy of being able to magnify your miracles. But before we go into that, let's take a few deep breaths together. And just breathing in the energy of expansion, breathing out anything that you no longer need. Allowing yourself to come into this present moment. And as you let the tension out of your body and your mind starts to settle down, even just a little bit more than it was, even if it's just a slight amount, it's enough to make a difference that you will begin to feel that divine presence within you, supporting you, loving you, and knowing that whatever you need to hear to help you magnify your miracles is exactly what you're going to hear. Let's take one more deep breath together in gratitude, and we can begin. All right, my friend. Well, welcome once again to the Magnify Your Miracles podcast. And I want to share my story with you about my encounter with Mother Mary. And I want to give you a little bit of background first so you have a little context for it. But I'm not just telling you this because I want to talk about my story. I'm going to share this with you because I want you to see that your story and my story are the same story, and they can be the same story. You can have that same connection. And that by allowing this energy that I call Mother Mary, it's really the energy of unconditional love, into your life, it has a profound ability to heal on a deep, deep level and really magnify anything and everything that you would love to be magnified. Now, I've told this story before, but there are many new subscribers to the podcast, so I'm sharing it again, and from a little bit of a different perspective than I shared it in the first year that I was doing the podcast, because I've grown and I've changed, and I understand my relationship with Mother Mary a little bit more. So for all of you who might be wondering, Mother Mary is what I call this energy, this being of love and light. Sometimes I refer to her as Divine Mother. I believe that if I was raised in a different culture, I would probably call her by a different name. I might call her Saraswati or Kuan Yin or Isis or Gaia. Any name really, because behind all the personalities of all the great beings that we can connect with is the one truth, the one light, the one source of unconditional love. Now, I was raised Catholic, so I knew who Mother Mary was, but I wasn't necessarily drawn to the Mother Mary that was presented to me when I was a young girl, because she was presented to me as almost a non-entity. She was presented to me as a vessel as somebody who, held everything in her heart. She didn't voice her opinion necessarily. She didn't assert any of her power. She almost was portrayed as kind of like a doormat. And, when I was a kid, I was the last thing I wanted to be associated with. I was like, forget this. So when I let go of formal religion, I let go of the church when I was like 11, no kidding. I let go of Mother Mary at the same time. I let go of all of it. And I started studying metaphysics. And I started studying the nature of the universe. And then when I was 19, I had a healing crisis, and my journey kind of took a left turn down the healing path. But, I had always had a feel in my heart that I wanted to be able to share what I felt like was the love of God with people and that joy. And of course, I couldn't do it as a girl. I couldn't do that in the Catholic Church. There was no way for me to do that the way that I was feeling called to do it. So I just let the whole thing go. But that longing stayed with me. And, I became a healer in my early 20s. I started working with people and their energy. I started being able to read energy. And I always wanted to really understand what was the root of what was going on with people. So my desire to be a minister, my desire to be of service in that way was still pretty strong. And when I moved to New York, when I was 30, I went there originally to be a singer-songwriter, realized I didn't have the drive or the desire to be in that lifestyle. I went to the new seminary and I became an interfaith minister. And I thought, now here I am. But the thing about being an interfaith minister is that you honor everybody. Everybody's path is equal, really, in your mind, and you don't have a particular path that you're promoting. You're not a salesperson for a particular church or temple, or even a set of beliefs. You're really there to honor everybody's belief. And so for a long time, I was wondering, how do I do this? How do I be this interfaith minister? And then it occurred to me that my job was simply to create a space where the divine could manifest in the way that somebody would need. And whether that was one-on-one or that was in a group, whatever it was, that was my job, was to create space. So for a long time, that's what I did. And I wanted so much for the divine to be the center of my life that when I was 35 or so, I moved to a spiritual ashram. An ashram is like a spiritual community. It's a Sanskrit word for community. And I lived there for 6 years. And it was an ashram based on Western teachings, the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. And I loved living with like-minded and like-hearted people. I loved that we were all pointing our boats in the same direction, and that, we all loved the divine. And I loved learning, and I wanted that to be my life. I just wanted to live there for the rest of my life. But, problems started to crop up, and we started to see within about a year or so that maybe this wasn't exactly the right place for us, even though there were so many things about it that were amazing. There were a lot of things about it that were, dysfunctional. It's kind of a microcosm of the macrocosm. But about 3 years in, we were like, well, where would we go? What would we do? And I really wanted to stay. I was really attached to it. And I loved the land. It was so beautiful. I loved a lot of the people. I loved the music. Of course, I loved Yogananda. So I didn't really want to find the next place. And what I started doing to cope with this conflict within me, the conflict between my soul guidance saying, this isn't the right place for you. You've gotten what you've needed. It's time for you to move on. And my intense attachment and desire. No. I want this to be the right place. I want this to be let this be my thing. I don't want to have to figure it out. I don't want to think about it. I want this to be my thing. And that conflict of ignoring or suppressing my soul guidance and leaning into my attachment caused a problem within me. And my connection to spirit started to get a little thin. My ability to hear my intuition started to get even thinner. And I stayed 3 more years. So by the end of that 6th year, I was kind of out of whack. And I didn't even know how out of whack I was until I was talking to a friend of mine, and I realized that I couldn't really hear or feel the angels anymore. And I thought, oh, that's because I'm focusing on something different and I'm meditating deeply. And I made up all these excuses. And I was like, no, I really can't feel that divine presence that I was feeling when I moved here. What happened? What happened was I was listening to everybody else's intuition and everybody else's guidance and everybody else telling me what I should and shouldn't be doing and shouldn't be feeling. And just I allowed a lot of doubt to come in to my mind and into my heart. And I won't go into all the details of the last straw that happened of why we left, but we left in that 6th year and moved down to Encinitas in Southern California. And as I was recovering from being in that community, I started to see and feel just how much I'd given my power away. And it was almost like I had broken up from being in an abusive relationship. I started to see just how in subtle ways and not so subtle ways, I changed myself and I had adapted in ways that weren't healthy for me. And I was grieving. I was grieving the loss of this dream. I was grieving the fact that I moved in there with a stronger sense of connection to the divine than I had moving out. And that was the whole reason that I had moved in there. And I just was so mad at myself. I was so mad at myself because my spiritual path was the most important thing to me. And I feel like I let somebody else in the form of an organization get in there and mess with me. And I gave my power away. So mad at myself. So for the first 9 months down in Encinitas, I was going through all of that and grieving. And I read Martha Beck's really, really good book about leaving the saints and her journey of moving away from the church that she had been raised in. And it was really healing for me to realize that any organization that puts the needs of itself above the needs of its members are going to have similar things, going to end up hurting people, whether it's intentionally or not. That really helped me. But it was in the midst of this grieving time. I was still doing readings for people. I was still able to help other people, but I couldn't really meditate anymore. I just would sit on my meditation mat and I just would say, help me. That was my prayer. I would light my candle. I would listen to my mantra music and I would just say, please help me. Please help me. I cannot feel your presence. Please help me. And at the same time, part of me felt like I didn't deserve to feel that presence because I really had betrayed myself. It's really what had happened. So it was in the thick of this dark night of the soul that I went to go see a woman saint from India, very powerful, named Amashri Karunamai. And I went to go receive a blessing from her, and I asked for her help. And the first thing she said to me is, oh, Divine Mother hears your prayers. And I was like, what? What do you mean? And she gave me this beautiful blessing. And about 4 weeks after that, Mother Mary's energy started manifesting in my life. Now, looking back on it now, that probably was Mother Mary's energy in the form of this beautiful saint from India. But it showed up in a beautiful way. About 4 weeks later, I received a little icon in the mail of Our Lady of Perpetual Healing with a little cotton swab of Miraculous myrrh oil. And I didn't think anything of it, but I had it. It was sitting on my altar. And I kept praying because I was still in that dark night. And this is what ended up happening. This is how I encountered Mother Mary. Is I was praying one day, and I was in the middle of changing my business and looking to see, could I reach more people if I stepped out of the one-on-one model and I started doing message circles and group channeling and that kind of thing. And I was working with the angels that I love, working with Archangel Raphael, and it was going really well. But I still on the inside was feeling disconnected from myself, and I was looking for guidance. What was I to do? What am I really here to do? And so I was praying one day. It was an afternoon in July in 2012, sitting at my altar. And I was like, God, Divine Mother, you have to help me. Please help me. Please give me a direction. Please, please help me. And all of a sudden, I felt the energy in the room shift. Now, you know, I've been doing energy work for a long time. So I'm very sensitive to energy. And I felt the energy in the room shift. And I was like, oh, what happened? Now, my eyes were closed. But, you know, I read people's energy with my eyes closed all the time. So that was no strange thing for me. My eyes were closed, but I felt that there was someone standing behind me. Now, I had just lived in an ashram based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. So I'm thinking, is this Yogananda? Is this his guru, Swami Shri Yukteswar? Is this any of the Hindu deities? Is it Saraswati or Lakshmi or Shiva? Because I'm like, this is my path. And I was convinced that was my path. And in my mind's eye, I turn around and I could see so clearly standing behind me, oh, this is Mother Mary. And I recognized her immediately. I felt her presence. I knew who she was. I could see the light blue and the beautiful gold and the white. And I could feel her power and her peace. I was like, oh, this is Mother Mary. And in my mind, I asked her, why are you here? And as clear as day, Mother Mary said, I want to be on your next message circle call. Which I was like, seriously? But I just said, okay. Because, you know, at that point, I was hanging on by a thread. And how can anybody say no to Mother Mary? And as soon as I said, okay, boom, she was gone. Just like that. So she asked to be in my business and for me to channel messages from her. And as soon as she was gone, I was like, wow. And then right after that, I was like, oh no, how am I going to explain this? This is not what I'm not Catholic. How's this going to work? How am I going to explain it to people without people thinking I'm like out in left field and full of myself? And all the doubts came in. But I said, you know what? She asked. I said, yes, let me try it. And so I did. And I did a message circle and I channeled messages from Mother Mary for people. And I got such incredible feedback at the end of that call. People saying to me, I don't know if you're wondering about your purpose, but if you are, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Of course, I was wondering about that. And I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. How am I going to integrate this? What am I going to do? But ever since then, ever since I said yes, Mother Mary has been a source of blessing for me, healing for me, guidance, and unconditional love. And everything that I have invited her into, every part of my life, every part of my business, every part of my creativity, every part of everything, she has magnified that energy in my life. Because she's the great magnifier. She says, my soul magnifies the Lord and my spirit rejoices in God. That's Mother Mary's prayer in the book of Luke. She is the great magnifier. Now, again, just to remind you, you might not have grown up with Mother Mary. You might be saying, what is she talking about? This is what I call Mother Mary. But really, this is the energy, the power of unconditional love, the power of the divine feminine, the power of the great mother who happened to show up for me looking like Mother Mary. So it's coming on 10 years now since I said yes. And one of the things that's happened is the way I work with people is dramatically changed. I changed the name of my business. I used to just call it Sacred Healing. Now I have Magnify Your Miracles, because I know that when people combine working with your own intentions, working with the laws of the universe, and working in conjunction with Mother Mary, inviting her energy in and learning how to connect with her yourself, you then create a miraculous life. And that's no joke. I don't use that word lightly at all. It is not a marketing gimmick. You start to be able to do things that you never thought you could do. You start to be able to become a channel of miracles in ways that you never thought was possible. And I've had training in energy healing. I've been doing energy work for like 30 years now. But it changed 10 years ago when Mother Mary started working with me. It became stronger and more amplified and more tangible in a different way than I'd ever done it before. And the biggest thing I would say changed for me is it wasn't coming from me. It was coming through me in a much more tangible and at a higher wattage. It's the best way I can say it. Now, I'm sharing this story with you because people often ask me, like, how do you work with it? What are you working with it? Like, how does it work? What's your story? And I wanted to share it with you. And every time I tell it, I'm like, wow, this is an amazing story. My commitment to you is I'm going to write this story down and I'm going to have this story published because there's so many miracles that have happened since 2012. So many amazing ways that Mother Mary has made her presence known to me, and she will make her presence known to you if you invite her, if you put out that prayer, and if you say yes to her invitation. One of the things that she's asked me to do, and I've done it twice now, and I'm getting ready to do it again, is she's asked me to offer something called a healing energy activation. Healing energy activation. And this is for people who want to learn how to plug in to the power of unconditional love. And so far, I've had people come to me that are Reiki masters and they do theta healing and they do all kinds of things, amazing things, beautiful things. And I'm often wondering, why would they want to take this with me? Oh, because they want to connect with Mother Mary. And when she does this activation, she activates a portal within you that will connect you directly to her vibration. That's what happened with me. I didn't even know it. So it's an initiation of sorts. So even if you're a Reiki master, theta healing, quantum touch, whatever you do, this work with Mother Mary is amazing. And I am going to be offering it again in May of 2022, the healing energy activation. And I'll put some more information about it. But I want to talk to you about this over the next couple of podcast episodes. I want to share more miracles with you. I want you to understand more fully, in a really grounded way, what it's like to work with Mother Mary in a really tangible way, and how life-changing it absolutely is. The people that took this course the last time I offered it said, oh, I had all these tools, but you showed me how to plug them in. Imagine having a garage full of tools and you don't know how to use them. There they are. They're all shiny. You got to learn how to plug them in. That's what Mother Mary does. When you connect with her, she plugs you in to the highest source of energy, the highest frequency of healing possible. And it comes through you. And first and foremost, it comes for you. And that's what's so different about this. So it's really about you. So Mother Mary has been teaching me how to love myself. She's been teaching me how to let go of my little self and step into my bigger self. She's been teaching me how to be a conduit of higher frequencies of energy. And she's been asking me to teach other people how to do that too. Because that, my friends, is the real secret to magnifying your miracles. And that energy is already here. It is already here. So many blessings I could share with you. And one of the blessings that's come is just the ability to share this story. One of my clients who I love working with so much, she said to me, she's a little nervous about stepping out as a healer. And she said, "Boy, you're really just out there with what you do. You just say it. Like, you're not afraid of talking about like Mother Mary." And I said, I was afraid for a really long time. Mother Mary's been knocking on my door since 1994. And I didn't say yes until 2012. I was afraid for a long time. But I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm not trying to convince you. All I'm doing is sharing my story, which Mother Mary says is the only thing and is the most important thing that any of us has to share is our own story. I'm just sharing my story. This is what's happened to me. This is what happened when I was heartbroken in a dark night of the soul. Mother Mary came and she asked me if I would be willing to work with her. And I said yes. And you can say yes too, in your own way. If it feels like the right thing for you, you can say yes. And it doesn't have to be to Mother Mary. You can say yes to whatever form of the divine. But I encourage you to really say yes to whatever that is within you. I call this energy the energy of unconditional love. And it is the most healing and powerful and transformational energy. And I've tried a lot of different types of healing. And this one is the one that I can say with no doubt is miraculous. Every miracle in the world, I am now convinced, has its origin in the field of unconditional love. So if you would like to learn how to tap into that energy, I would love it if you want to join me for the Healing Energy Activation. You can go to my website, francisfaden.com/Healing Energy Activation. You can find out information there. And in the meantime, I am going to be following up over the next couple of episodes, sharing more about Mother Mary and sharing more about miracles, because I'm recording this in the month of April 2022, and the month of May is the month of miracles. So you'll be doing this miraculous training with Mother Mary in the month of miracles. So powerful. So powerful. I'm curious what encounters you have had. Whenever I ask somebody, people think I'm special. I'm not special. I just said yes. When I was hanging at the end of my rope, I said yes. That might make me wise, but it doesn't make me special. And you can say yes too, my friend, in any way that feels good to you. And that yes, in and of itself, is miraculous. So when have you had an encounter with the divine? Have you encountered Mother Mary? I'd love to hear about it. Feel free to leave me a comment. I answer all comments. I read them all. I love connecting with you that way. And just remember, my friend, that the key to magnifying your miracles, the very first step, is knowing that your miracle is already here. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Magnify Your Miracles podcast. I'm so grateful to be able to spend this time with you. If you want even more inspiration, feel free to visit my website, francisfaden.com or magnifyyourmiracles.com. And if you did enjoy this episode, I would really appreciate it if you left a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever it is that you connect with awesome podcasts. Remember, the key to magnifying your miracles is remembering that your miracle is already here.